This is Baton Rouge Labor Radio. We're on WTQT 106.1 LPFM. The call-in line number is 225-343-1075. That's 225-343-1075. I'm Michael D. Day. Neil Paul Miller is off. Well-deserved day off. Probably with his beautiful wife Karen somewhere, and we're sitting in this today, good enough to sit in with me as a guest co-host, Eyler Coates. And good morning, Eyler.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks.
For you two, well, I'm Michael D. Day, along with Neil Paul Miller, and Neil, let's take a quick call. If you work for free, good morning, call. Always have a job. Live better. Hello. Work union. Stay warm today. It is freezing. Yes. Well, what can I do for you?
Well, I'm trying to get a hold to Neil.
Neil. Well, Neil's not in today.
Okay.
But what's on your mind?
Okay, Mike. This is Mary Teresa. I've known Neil. I've met him several times. And I was just calling to say, actually, a big thank you for the labor unions today. Because I come from a labor union family 5 generations back. And all of them are out of plumbers and steamfitters. And they've done a tremendous job. And with all the terrorism going on in the world right now, I would really rather have a skilled hand out there than someone that can't put 2 screws together. It's kind of scary, the world we're living in. And I see where you're going to get a pay a $5 weld, or you're going to get a $5 weld. I am a staunch believer in the labor union movement. My husband and I get up every morning now on Saturday mornings to listen to you guys. And I've been teaching for 28 years now, and we've been bringing students up to plumbers and steamfitters to visit, because today's kids, a lot of them aren't going to college, and this is the best way for them to get a trade and to learn how to make a living to support their family.
Where do you teach at, ma'am?
I'm retired now. I taught at Baker.
Baker. Mm-hmm. I went there. Jerry Boudreaux.
Oh, yes.
Tore my butt up.
Are you from there, Mike?
No, I went there. It was kind of like they threw me out of Prescott, and I had to go somewhere, But I wasn't a very studious guy. The gentleman that's sitting in the studio with me this morning, Eyler Coates, he can testify to that. We went to school all the way up together, but, even though I wasn't a good student, they had teachers there that fought me to learn something.
They were
passionate. They were passionate, and I appreciate their passion. And I wish that I could tell them all, thank you, and I'm sorry. But it might be a little late for that,
My teachers, my students probably think the same thing. But, that's one thing I said, too, as far as today's kids don't have the opportunity to go to college. The cost, the expense, things are too much. And, as far as getting an education in a trade, you can't do any better than the crafts.
Well, we've got an open program.
And back you any way, shape, or form. Like I said, my whole family has been out of 198, from my great-grandfather on down, my uncle, my cousins, and I have 3 nephews out right now, and a niece, and I'm one of those that will never bite the hand that fed me my whole life and gave me a good life.
Well, Mary Louise, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. We appreciate you calling. We're going to get the topic we're going to do today is raising the minimum wage, and I brought Eyler Coates in, an old school chum of mine from way back, and he is a part-time professor at the adjunct professor at the University of Southern Mississippi. Grew up over here, Prescott, Ostroma, the whole deal. So we're going to bring him back, and we appreciate your call.
And you bring it up, you're saying Ostroma now. I mean, that's where both of my parents graduated.
IHS, rah-rah. And we appreciate you calling. We hope you keep listening and call back.
Oh, we will definitely keep listening. We'll keep trying to support and encourage everyone we know to get into the crafts and to call the hall and, see where they want to go and what they want to do. And we appreciate AFL-CIO supporting this so we can get the word out there.
Well, thank you for calling, Mary Louise.
All right. You have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And getting back, I just want to say real quick, Eyler, that we are fully funded and underwritten by the Louisiana AFL-CIO and the Greater Baton Rouge Building and Trades. And we are streaming on WTQT.org. I hope Jenny's listening. And we also broadcast on Channel 31 in Shreveport. We're broadcast in Shreveport, Channel K31.2. That's on television. And Alexandria, Channel K38.2. Now, Eyler, I don't know if you know, but I'm going to go through this real quick. WTQT was founded in 1996 by Dr. Ernest L. Johnson, president of the Louisiana NAACP, WTQT, and its parent organization, the Louisiana Community Development CAP Fund for short. They continue to help countless families to lead happier, more prosperous lives. If you're interested in joining, if you're interested in partnering with our station, opportunities are available. Contact our community coordinator by calling 225-343-1075. And like I said earlier, we are happy, I am happy to have Eyler Coates, an old school chum from Prescott on up to Ostroma. And I don't know, it would have probably taken me a lot longer to get out of both of those schools if he didn't have slumpy shoulders. But anyway, Eyler, I appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, I guess Day just follows right after Coates, so you were sitting right behind me in class every time.
Oh, good.
I didn't realize that you were looking over my shoulder and all this.
No, I know. You're a pretty straight up guy. But anyway, Bob, Eyler, I appreciate you coming in, and I know you've done a lot of research on the minimum wage.
Yeah, let me give you a little background and just about myself so you know who's talking to you. Like I said, I went to school with Mike. I grew up in Baton Rouge. Went to LSU. I got a degree in industrial engineering, which has to do with, improving manufacturing operations, making them safer, more efficient, more cost-effective. And that was sort of my specialty. I went out and worked as an engineer for 12 years in different parts of the country. Went to Ohio, where, the Rust Belt, and worked in some manufacturing areas there. Went down to South Carolina and worked there. And then North Carolina, and I got an opportunity to go back to grad school. Came back to LSU, got my master's and PhD degrees in engineering science at LSU, and then I went to work at the University of Southern Miss for about 12 years. After that, I went back to industry again, and I'm currently part-time or adjunct professor at USM and a full-time engineer at the shipyard in Pascagoula. So I've kind of just want to let you know that I've been out in the real world. I've been in academia too, and what I'm trying to do now is to let people see what the benefits are to raising the minimum wage.
And we're on the same page with that here at Baton Rouge Labor Radio. And the show that we previously recorded, that we played, that was recorded on January the 4th, is, Bob, I know you got a lot of research, and I'm going to let you get to it. Mm-hmm. But I pulled into a Church's Chicken in Port Allen, Louisiana, early in January, and I didn't want to get a full meal or anything. I was doing some work. I was, traveling around. And so I pulled in and I said, I'll just grab a French fry and that'll do it till I get, have a full meal. So I pull in, I order a French fry, it's $3.26. And I pull in and I told the guy at the window that handed me the fries, I says, $3.26 for an order of French fries? I says, I could go to the store and buy 5 pounds of potatoes for this, man. Mm-hmm. And he says, yeah, that's what I do. And he says, you know what? He says, when they raise the minimum wage, it's going to go higher.
Well,
I said,
no.
I said, God, I don't know what they're paying you. It's none of my business. But if they're getting $3.26 for an order of French fries, they should be paying you well. Mm-hmm. And go into what you got, Bob.
Okay. What I'm...
Eyler?
Yeah, Eyler. Bob. Just call me Bobby. But
I know the guy for 40 years is Bob, and now he's Eyler.
No, people don't realize how little labor cost goes into this fast food. The first thing people think is that when you talk about raising the minimum wage, a hamburger is going to go, we're going to have to pay $20 hamburgers. It's just not true. The cost of a hamburger, the price you pay for a hamburger is not necessarily dependent on the cost. The price you pay is based on the market demand, the supply and demand for the hamburger.
How many hamburgers you're selling?
Right. It's how high you can move the price up until the sales start to drop off.
Right.
That determines the price you pay for a hamburger. And the cost is a very tiny fraction. The labor cost, from my discussions with some managers in the fast food industry, is that it's less than 10% of the total cost of that hamburger. The cost of the hamburger, not the price of the hamburger. Right. It's 10% of it is labor. Now, also, as an industrial engineer, I'm always looking at the labor content of work, and my mind is sort of warped that way. And when I go, unfortunately, I think that way all the time. When I go and look at, I get a hamburger too. I go in and I watch them make it because I'm waiting for I'm hungry. And I look at it, I look at the touch time on that hamburger. Somebody, they bring
now
it
that's
out.
New. I don't know anybody looks for the touch time.
That's
You're the
my
one.
business. And I realize it's only seconds. We're talking about the time the guy touches the burger, lays it on a bun, puts the condiments on it and the other accessories, puts it in a box. We're talking maybe 20 seconds tops. 20 seconds, all right? Now what is that fraction of an hour? That's I can't even. I should have that handy, but let me break out a little calculator. All right, 20 divided by 60. That's that's about 0.5% of an hour. Now, if you pay somebody $7 an hour, that labor time to deal with that hamburger is about 4 cents.
Well, that would be $7.25 an hour. But what I'm saying, Bob, is
we're talking about 4
what
cents
they're talking
labor.
about. Now I'm going to be the devil's advocate here. What I would say a business owner in a franchise situation, which that's probably most of the deal around here, franchise. There's very few corporate stores. Okay, I got to pay this guy $7.25. He's making a hamburger that takes 20 seconds. He's going to touch it for 20 seconds.
Right.
Okay, now, but you're not adding up the time that I've still got to have him, which, you know, say 5 hours a day, because most of these jobs are part-time, and they're running them part-time because they don't want to pay anyone overtime. So, in other words, I got to pay this guy $40. I'll say $35, 35 and change, $36, $37 for 5 hours work, and now you want me to pay him $9 an hour, which is going to raise my cost to $45 a day, which is $7, $8 a day more than what I would normally have to pay.
That's right. That's right. Your costs are going to go up, but you're dividing that cost over 1,000 hamburgers.
Right.
And we're talking pennies. Now, I got some researchers at the University of Kansas School of Business took that question and did the same thing. What if we made...
Which is no basking of liberals in Kansas.
No. This is the School of Business. These aren't liberal people. These are numbers people. And they said, what if we paid everybody in McDonald's $15 an hour, double what they're getting now in Kansas anyway? And you know how much the cost for a Big Mac would go up according to these researchers? 68 cents. Dollar menu items might go up 17 cents. So that's the cost of that burger, and that's if they went up that much. But you know what? We don't have to use theory here. We can go, there's other places in the world where they have McDonald's. And there's some other places that have higher minimum wages than the United States.
Now, trivia question, real quick before you go into it. What is the name of a quarter pounder in France?
I don't know.
A Royale with cheese. They use the metric system, Bob. Come on.
That's right, no quarter pounder.
A Royale with cheese. Go ahead, Bob.
No, you can go to you don't have to go very far either. You can go to Canada, and they have a minimum wage of I think it's $12 an hour, and you can go just across the border. And you know how much a McDonald's burger costs over in Canada versus the United States?
Don't know.
Same exact price.
$12 an hour, and Canada has a very much higher standard of living than we do here.
Right. And the workers there make, that's about a 50%, no, actually a 60, 70% increase over what we're making here. And the price of a burger is exactly the same.
Now, Bob, have you done any research on how many people, if say you did go $15 an hour to the minimum wage, which I think is impossible. The president's only calling for $10. And he's supposed to be some flaming liberal, okay? But have you done research on if the minimum wage was $15 an hour, how many people would it pull off of social programs? No. SNAP cards, food stamps, Medicaid.
I have I don't have those exact numbers with me at the moment.
But it would have to do that.
Oh yeah, it saved billions of dollars in social aid cost. Let me find see if I can find that number for you. Got too much paper here.
You know, I think the problem we have in this country is that the politicians that we have now in both parties, corporate Democrats and, of course, just about all corporate Republicans, with maybe the exception of Thaddeus McCotter in Michigan, they think that millionaires and trillionaire corporations don't make enough money.
Well, they're more profitable now than they ever have been. Right now, Here's an article that you could Google if you're interested. It's on the it's how to reduce $7 billion in public spending. Basically, just providing a higher wage for fast food workers. We're not even talking about the entire economy. We're just saying, if you just gave them a higher wage, you would reduce $7 billion of government assistance.
Government assistance, yeah.
Right.
We're talking with Eyler Coates, adjunct professor from the University of Mississippi. He's also an engineer with what company you work, Bob?
Ingalls Shipbuilding.
Ingalls. And so go ahead, Bob, Eyler.
Okay, well, basically, what I was going to talk about a little bit is I think we should raise the minimum wage up to a much higher amount. Maybe you can't do it all at once. It has to be in increments to minimize disruptions to the economy. But when you raise the minimum wage, this is the quickest, most effective way to inject stimulus into the economy. Now, and also what it does, most people who are at the lower end of the wage scale, almost all of their money goes towards essentials. They don't have that much opportunity for saving money.
Bread, milk, soap, shampoo,
Gasoline, cars, car repairs. I mean, they're just survival things that we have to spend.
And this has been the stand of organized, like Louisiana AFL-CIO, the AFL. We preach this, just like extending unemployment benefits for over 1 million people that are out of work. They're not putting this money in the stock market.
No.
They're buying meat and bread, beans, rice, whatever.
There's and what's happening is in this current economy. I got some. Let's just look at the current newspaper.
Well,
This was from this weekend.
USA Today.
No, this is actually my local paper.
What give accreditation on that?
The Sun Herald.
Sun
I'm
Herald
from
in
the Gulf
Mississippi.
Coast. Right. And here's the headline in the business section. It says, lower paying industries are leading the gains in the jobs right now. We're losing the high dollar manufacturing, middle class, jobs, and it's in our country, and it's just hurting us.
Bob, now I know this for pretty much a fact. Mm-hmm. When we had our reunion a few years back, that about, I think it was 95% of our graduating class in 1974 at Estroma High went to work immediately at Exxon refinery.
Yeah. I don't know.
Those jobs aren't there anymore.
That's right.
And go ahead, Bob.
Well, nationwide, that's we think it's bad here, but I've lived in 5 different states, and it's about the same everywhere. We're having this problem everywhere we go in the United States. Let's for instance, and now we're just in 2013. We're getting jobs, but they're not the jobs that replace the good jobs that we lost. And unfortunately, this is according to the Labor Department. These are the biggest percentage of growth is occurring. The biggest category right now is temporary help. Unfortunately, this is the jobs that pay less. They have fewer benefits. There's
no benefits.
None really. And the rising numbers used to be seen as a good thing. This is a precursor to permanent hiring. Unfortunately, employers are now turning to temporary workers for long-term basis, not just to ramp up, but they're just keeping temporary workers and just churning these people instead of hiring them on permanently, giving them better benefits and better pay. So this is bad. This is good. No. And then I'll tell you why it's bad. Well, hotels, restaurants, amusement parks, and other entertainment firms are posting the next highest, biggest percentage gain. The third highest is the retail. All right, so, well, those are jobs, but they're not the kind of jobs that pay a lot of money. They're at the lower paying end. And what's hurting us, our country now, I'm talking about the country, what's hurting us is that these people making these lower wages have to work longer hours just to survive. And when you're working longer hours and not making any money, you're not spending any money. You know, this is bad for the economy. Now, there's people, Henry Ford is not a friend of the labor unions.
No, he wasn't. But
he had a lot of vision.
he had vision.
He was a genius in a sense. He's like the Steve Jobs of the early 20th century.
I agree.
Now, what he did unilaterally, it was in early
$5 an hour.
Right. They were making $2.38 an hour. He said, first day of the year, he said, from this point on, everybody's going to make $5 an hour in my factories. What did this do? Well, it did two things. First, he had a big turnover problem. That came to a screeching halt because he had the best paying jobs in town. It also brought thousands of people from other areas of the country. They wanted to work for Ford Motor Company, because they paid top dollar, and it was a good job, and you could make a living. And the other thing it did, might be the self-centered motivation, was that all of a sudden he had thousands of customers who could now afford
To buy what he was
his
making.
car. Exactly.
Now, along with that, Bob, he had guards that would go in the bathrooms. And if you were in the bathroom taking care of your business, that you had to tap your feet while you were in there to make sure you weren't sleeping in the bathroom.
Right.
The guy was
eccentric.
He made that high wage because he knew it was necessary to progress his business.
Right.
And you know, you hear today a lot of politicians go on about job creators. We don't want to tax the job creators. Well, Bob, it's been said many times on this show that no one has ever opened a business to create a job. They open a business to create a profit, and a job is just something they've got to do along the way to keep the profits flowing in.
That's
Would you
right.
agree or disagree?
That's
with
right.
that?
If they didn't have to hire anybody, if they had a
If
robot
you could do
to
it by
do
yourself, you would.
it, that you would. That's right. You hire people only because you can't do it yourself.
Or you know you're going to make money with this employee.
That's right. Yeah.
So we're talking to Eyler Coates, adjunct professor from the University of Mississippi. We're talking on minimum wage. And Bob, go on, and I'm going to invite the callers to call in and hit you with a question. The number is 225-343-1075. If you got a question for Eyler Coates, adjunct professor of the University of Mississippi, we're talking about minimum wage. That number is 225-343-1075. And he just has some overwhelming evidence that it wouldn't do anything but help the whole country by doubling the minimum wage, let alone $10 an hour. Carry on, Bob.
Yeah, and actually, what's kind of interesting is that this happened exactly 100 years ago, almost to the day, on January 5th, 1914. This is about when the first day came back from the Christmas holidays. This is when he doubled the wages. Now, he had thought about this a long time. He was very eccentric. He had a lot of, quirks and stuff, almost like a Steve Jobs, kind of a nerdy type of fellow.
Control freak.
Right, and he was known for being, well, the nice way of saying it, he was paternalistic toward his employees, which meant he was a control freak, right.
And he was intimately anti-union.
Yes.
Because that took control. They gave a voice to the employees in the workplace. But go ahead.
Now, at the time, the other business owners considered him a traitor because he instantly changed the entire labor market, in one stroke by doubling doubling the wages that he paid. Now, what this did to him, though, it actually improved his profits. We're talking the doubling the profits. They thought, oh, he just committed business suicide, all right? Now, there's a whole point to this
Doubling
story.
the wages.
Doubling the wages. Well, what happened was profits doubled.
Wow.
In 2 years. So let's repeat that again. In 1914, he doubled the wages unilaterally. No other business in town, no other, in the country, did what he did. He did it on his own. You think he just committed business suicide. That's what they think today if you increase wages. 2 years later, the profits had doubled. Of course, sales went through the roof. He captured, by 1921, there were lots of car companies. They've gone the way of the dinosaur and the dodo. I mean, we don't hear about them anymore. But there was huge competition in the car industry. Well, by 1916, his profits had doubled. His sales were booming. By 1921, he had over half of the U.S. car market.
50% of the market share.
Right. This was all with his double wages. It all started at that point. Now, this guy's, how did he know all this was going to happen? But when he first started making cars, the only people who could afford his cars were the 1%. A car back then was $3,000, and when you made $2 a day, then you basically that's 1,500 days just to buy a car. And then there weren't car loans back then.
Right.
You paid for cash, so only the 1% could afford a car. So he said, this has got to change. Two things have to happen. I have to bring down the price of the car. The only way to do that is to make a whole bunch of cars. If I make a whole bunch of cars, that means a whole bunch of people have to be able to afford it. And the only way I can get a whole bunch of people to afford it is to pay everybody for it. Right? That made a lot of sense. Now, that's exactly what happened. This plan went through, and by 1938, we saw what happened with the industry in America. I mean, car business was booming, and the industrial age was here, and all of a sudden, people were able to buy things that we couldn't buy just the previous generation, and it's because people had money to spend. People could make a living wage. And so what happened was 1938, the government said, not everybody has Ford's vision. Not everybody can see the big picture. A lot of companies look at, they're very, self-contained. They look at just the bottom line for the next quarter. And they don't see how if you empower your consumers to buy more, you're going to sell more. Business is going to boom. So what the government did in 1938 was implement a minimum wage across the nation. This is how the minimum wage got started. So basically, what happened ever since then was that people have been discussing, should we even have a minimum wage, and why should we raise the minimum wage, and so forth. If he were to come back today and see what happened to the minimum wage, I think he would be shocked, because they don't understand what it does for the economy, and Ford saw what it did for the economy.
So what you're saying, Bob, Eyler, essentially is that as you see it, from what your research, which is, I can see, been very extensive. You got a notebook full of notes there. Mm-hmm. That if the minimum wage went from $7.25, which it is now, to $10 in the morning, within a week or two, the economy would see huge gains by people going out and buying goods, and the more goods people buy, the more that people have to be hired to make those goods, that what's made in this country. And, there's still washing machines, dryers, stuff like that are manufactured in this country. Soap, food, products, and different things. So what you're saying is it would be a more consumer-based economy in this country that would boom.
That's exactly what we need. 70% of our gross domestic product is based on consumer spending. Right now we're doing everything we can to suppress consumer spending. Everyone's afraid for their jobs. They can't, they're afraid to go out and make a big purchase because, they don't know if their job's going to be around next year. So it's suppressing it. The other thing that's suppressing it is this low minimum wage that we have now. Do you realize that we're talking about there's a bill in Congress that's talking about raising the minimum wage to $10.10. You know where that number comes from?
No.
That's what the minimum wage is in California right now.
Right.
And they said, well, let's do this for the whole country. Do you know $10.10 is still not where we should be, based just on inflation alone? If you were to go back to the 60s, and if you were to just keep the same purchasing power that we had back then for someone on the minimum wage, they should be earning $10.74 today. So what we've done, we've actually reduced the minimum wage over time. Not in, quote, dollars, but in purchasing power. So people have to work longer to buy the same things that they used to buy back in the 60s.
Which they're not getting the hours to begin with.
That's
because
right.
companies have cut down to part-time and this and that and the other. And, you'll get no argument here on what you're saying.
Right.
So we're talking with Eyler Coates, adjunct professor, University of Mississippi, speaking on the minimum wage. If you'd like to join the conversation, number is 225-343-1075. Continue on, Eyler.
Yeah. Some people say, oh, well, why are we worrying about minimum wage? There's only a few people on the minimum wage. They're mostly teenagers.
Students.
Right.
Eyler, I think we got
not true.
somebody who wants to talk to you. Good morning, caller. You're on the air with Eyler Coates and Michael D. Day.
Well, how y'all doing, Michael Day and Bobby Coates?
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, Bobby Coates, he
Somebody
called
knows.
you.
This is old Strum boy named Chris Bonnet.
Chris Bonnet. Also, he is the administrator of the electricians. Well, he works with the electricians apprentice program. I know that.
Yeah, for
$9.95.
38 years.
38 years.
Wow.
Well,
We're all getting
IHS,
old.
rah-rah. Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, I got a question for Bobby.
Okay, Chris.
We got an old geezer and a smart geezer there, so I want to talk to that smart geezer for a minute.
There you go. You know.
So he wants to talk to you, Mike.
No, I don't think so. Eyler. Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Bobby, I understand you work at Ingalls, right?
That's right. I've been there about 7 years, yeah.
Unfortunately, I had the opportunity to work there one time when they couldn't man some work. And is that under Davis-Bacon?
What do you say?
Would they be under Davis-Bacon?
Davis-Bacon.
Prevailing wages. Government. Federal prevailing
Yeah,
wages.
they're a defense contractor, and they, right now their wage rates are, they're all negotiated with the unions. They have 3-year contracts, and I'm pretty sure they would be under that, fall under that. But I actually, that's a good question. I don't know definitively if they are.
Well, the reason I'm asking, because when I went to work there, and it's been a few years back, the scale was, pitiful. Pitiful.
You're up in Mississippi there, Chris. Come on, baby.
There's no benefits, no conditions. You had to walk about 2 miles, looks like, to get to the damn job site.
You still have to do that walk. Well, I think the benefits and the wages are pretty decent now. They had to make concessions. In fact, next year they're wanting to hire about 2,500 workers, all craftsmen.
Really?
Yes.
Well, the reason I'm asking because don't y'all do a lot of federal contracts?
100% federal contract.
Well, shouldn't that be under Davis-Bacon?
I'm not a legal.
Well, hey, Chris, you
It
know,
must be, but
if you've got a union contract, I think that might be, that might come into play there. The Mississippi unions, you were probably working under a Mississippi contract, right?
Well, it was out of the Pascagoula.
Right, Pascagoula.
Another question, Chris. Were you working directly for the company or the union, or were you working for a subcontractor?
Subcontractor.
Oh, okay. That's a. I don't know about that.
Should have came to New York with me, Chris. Me and Tiger Hammond, But
I was there in '87, '89. It took a couple of years off my life there, Mike.
hey, I was there in '86 when the Mets won the World Series. I loved it. Of course, I had to go into rehab a couple of times, but anyway, Chris, I think the union contract is an agreement, and I know it doesn't supersede federal law or anything like that, but union.
Your Davis-Bacon Act supersedes your union contract.
Well, you're asking a question that Eyler or myself were not really qualified to answer.
Right. That's a legal question, and
Lou,
I don't know how it works with the subcontractors. Now, I can tell you with the union there, their base rate is about $22 an hour.
Right.
I think
Plus benefits.
plus the benefits, the vacations, and all of that, holidays and so forth. I just don't know, Chris.
Yeah, we're at a standstill here on that question, Chris. What else you got, Chris Bonnet?
That's about it. I just wanted to say hi to you two guys, those Struma boys.
Well, I'm gonna hit you on Facebook later on. I'd love to have you in as a co-host one week. I'm doing. Neil and I are swapping up every other week. Like to talk to you about that.
Chris, before you hang up, what's your take on minimum wage? What's the level you think it should be?
Pardon me?
Well, how high do you think the minimum wage should be? Oh, well, first of all, some people say, should we even have one?
Should we have a minimum wage? Sure.
All right, what level do you think is, reasonable?
I think around $12.
Okay. Y'all might think I'm crazy, but
You take $12. What is that on a 40-hour week? That's $480. Let's just say it's $500.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Before, yeah.
Times 50 weeks. That's $25,000 a year.
Now, Chris, wait till you hear this.
You cannot make a living. You cannot feed a family of four on $25,000 a year. I'm sorry.
That's right.
Chris, now wait till you hear. I've heard Bobby say this before, and the first time I heard him say it, I thought he was just parroting one of these right-wing whack jobs. But when he said it, he was serious.
I'm serious.
And he backed it up because, you hear these right-wingers say, well, why don't we just make minimum wage $25 an hour? And they're being facetious.
Right.
But
they're trying to
listen to
be
what
ridiculous.
Bob's got to say on that matter.
No.
What the point that touched me, what he said, was the labor cost.
Right.
What he is saying is so true. For an example, how much do you think it costs to make a gallon of gasoline?
Probably a penny.
I think it costs Exxon to make 1 gallon of gasoline.
Labor cost?
Pardon me?
The labor cost is the
cost.
actual production people out there. It's probably a penny or something.
It's around a nickel.
A nickel? Okay. I mean, now I was just guessing, but all right. I believe you.
Somebody's getting rich, huh, Chris?
Well, You know, all that's public record of what Exxon and what Shell and all these people make. But we've got to pay for it so they can do more drilling and research.
Well, yeah, and they get government subsidies for that.
Yeah,
With the pharmaceutical companies. You know, to make one little pill, it costs them nickels, and they charge $20 for a pill.
R&D is what they say. Research and development on that.
And they wonder why, you know, our health care costs are going so high.
Yeah, yeah. Well, look, Chris, I'm going to hit you up later on. Bob's got a whole notebook full of stuff here he wants to get through. But we appreciate you chiming in, Chris.
Good to hear from you, Chris.
Y'all good hearing y'all. Hey, you know, Bobby, he was the good one of the family, too, you know.
Hey, we won't get into all that. I ran with his brother, too, you know.
Hey, I've seen him with long hair and he'll pick up a bass guitar a couple times.
Hey, now he's picking up a harp. Chris, thanks for listening. I'll hit you up later.
Y'all have a good day.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you.
And we're speaking with Eyler Coates, adjunct professor, University of Mississippi, graduate of Estroma High and Prescott Junior High.
That's right.
And like I said before, if he didn't have slumpy shoulders, I'd probably still be at Prescott. But anyway, go ahead, Bob. You were going.
No.
Well, this is WTQT 106.1 LPFM.
Oh, God, this hour's flown by. I can't believe it. Well, look, let me shoot down some myths really quick because I just can't believe the time has flown by. But there's nothing wrong with paying people $20 an hour, a minimum wage.
In
That
this economy.
is going to you're going to explode. The economy is going to explode in a good way. I'm talking about a consumer spending explosion that we have never experienced before in the history of our country. Now, you might think that's crazy, but this when people who are working all of a sudden start making $20 an hour, they're going to stay on the job. They're going to get training to get on the job. They're going to jump off of disability to get a job if they can make $20 an hour. They're going to jump off of welfare and make $20 an hour. They're going to go to technical school. They're going to try to get in the union, whatever it takes. Now, when you you say, well, what's that? Did you realize that 35 million Americans earn less than $10.55 an hour?
Wow, that's a big number.
26% of our workforce, 26%. You realize what would happen if 26% of our workforce
Doubled their wages.
Doubled their wages. You know what that would do to our economy? The spending would go through the roof. You know, we get so many new cars that would be on order that we couldn't keep up with the demand. It would just go. Henry Ford realized this. Now, a lot of people look at, well, if I pay my workers, double my workers, it's going to cut into my profits. It's not going to help me. But if you go nationwide with a minimum wage increase, everybody's on the same boat. Okay, maybe you'll be able to charge more for your products because there'll be a crazy demand for your products. All right, now, minimum wage is not just for teenagers. It's across all age groups. Basically, about 16% of all the workforce, no matter what the age, is making minimum wage. So we're going to be able to help a lot of people if we could raise the minimum wage. And you know, what happens when you raise the minimum wage? Do prices of products go up? No. Like we said, in Canada, they make $12 an hour versus $7.25 here. The price of a Big Mac is exactly the same. I've gone and looked at, they've done, in the last 20 years, a lot of economic professors have done this research. It's been one of the most studied problems in all of economics. And they have all found, almost to a man, or person, that minimum wage increases do not cause an increase in unemployment. a lot of old studies used to say that, but they didn't take into account the big picture where unemployment was rising anyway. But they've done some more detailed studies in the last 20 years where they've gone county by county, and they've taken into factors other things that happen. And they realize that minimum wage increases, and we've had a lot of them in this country, do not increase unemployment. So when you hear that, when you talk about raising the minimum wage and somebody says, oh, we're going to lose jobs, it's just not true. It's just not true. Now, I want to, I know we're running out of time. I wanted to show you some real life examples of where we do have differences in minimum wage and what happens when you, I want to take two countries. I want to go outside the United States. There's a country I've spent a lot of time in, Germany, and everybody there that's very highly unionized. A lot of people, virtually everyone has a very good living there. And the CEOs don't make that much of more than the people who work in the factories. And so there's a huge, huge upper middle class in Germany. They have a fraction of the crime rate that we have here. Because, I mean, if you're making good money, you don't need to break into cars.
You don't have to rob me.
Right.
Or
You don't have to rob stores and go break into cars. You're making good money. You can buy that car. You don't have to break into it. So I stayed with some teachers that were there, and these two teachers lived in this mansion, had granite floors, 3-story house. I said, gosh, this is how our country should be. We should pay everybody a decent wage, and we'll have a society where there's very
higher
low crime.
standard of living.
Higher standard of living, lower crime rate. They build the best cars in the world over there because everybody can afford to buy the best cars in the world. All right. That's what happens when you raise the rate. What happens when you lower the rate? We don't have to go. It's a car drive away. We can go to Mexico and look what happens. Minimum wage there is 60 cents an hour.
And they're riding motorcycles.
Right. And they work a whole lot longer to buy the same things that we buy here. The price of their products are lower there, but not in proportion to what they make. So when you have to work 3 times longer to buy the same basic necessities in Mexico than you have to buy here. So, I mean, what you're doing is you're taking away people's leisure time, the opportunity to spend, and the economy just tailspins. All right, okay, Mike.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Let's go to the European Union. I've got a table here, unfortunately, that you can't see, but Mike can verify that I'm not lying. Let's look at different countries. They all have different minimum wages. So if you're worried about raising the minimum wage and seeing what happens to your economy, look at the European Union. Go to Eurostat. I can send you this, Mike, over electronically if you want to post it.
Sure.
Go to Eurostat.org. That's the Bureau of Labor Statistics for the European Union. And you see the country that pays the highest minimum wage is Belgium. It's a little tiny country. They're surrounded by other countries. All right, Belgium, your minimum wage is, they do it monthly. It's $1,952 a month is their minimum wage. And that's, like Chris Bonnet was talking about, that's almost $25,000 a year. That is their minimum wage. All right, you think, oh my gosh. There's another country, Bulgaria, where it's only $206 a month. So there's a huge variation in Europe. You've got places like Romania, Bulgaria that pay very, very low wages, Lithuania and so forth. And you say, well, does Belgium and the Netherlands and Austria, they have high minimum wage laws. What about their unemployment? Believe it or not, Belgium has a very low unemployment rate, 8% versus 12% average for all of Europe. So they're actually 4 points below the European average, but they have the highest minimum wage. Germany has 5.2% unemployment versus the rest of Europe, which averages 12%. Now, who has some of the worst unemployment in Europe? It's Greece, Spain, and Portugal. Spain has a 27% unemployment rate. Horrible, right? Spain also has one of the lowest minimum wage rates in all of Europe. So look at what we have here. The countries that have the highest minimum wage have the highest employment. The highest minimum wage is causing the lowest unemployment in those countries. Why? Because people have money to spend. People have money to spend. They buy things. Creates more demand. More demand means more workers. I mean, it's just a snowball effect in the good direction.
And that's good. And you know, Bob, we're down to the last couple of minutes, and I'd like to thank you, and I'd like to thank Chris Bonnet for calling in, and our other callers, Mary Louise. And, you know, we hope you come back. We hope we can have you do some other subjects somewhere along the line by phone or here. This has been very educational to me, and I know our audience is loving it. You can pick up a rebroadcast of this show on my Facebook page, Michael D. Day, or you can go to YouTube, Baton Rouge Labor Radio. It's also posted on Baton Rouge Local Union 198. This is Baton Rouge Labor Radio. We're on WTQT 106.1 LPFM. We also stream on WTQT.org. And we're on Shreveport, channel K31.2. That's TV. Alexandria, channel K38.2. And like I said, Eyler Coates, adjunct professor, University of Southern Mississippi. Struma High boy, done well, moved on. We're hoping to have him back on the show to tackle more subjects like this. Now, Eyler, we've got a saying on this show, and it is that if you work for free, you'll always have a job. And we say live better, work union, have a nice day, and have a good weekend.
I have a quote, too.
Go ahead, Bob.
All right, Robert, this is my favorite quote from Robert Kennedy. He said, there are people who look at the way things are and say, why? And then there are people who, he says, I like to look at things that never were and ask why not.
There you go. With that, have a good weekend.